This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Richard, Tommy and I were discussing this earlier. Don't know if the season would have been entirely over if Mark didn't hit that shot last night. But, man, it sure gives you a whole new perspective on what could happen in conference play, doesn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt. Anytime you're on a losing streak, and especially some of the games that Arkansas has played recently, you're just going to have a negative attitude about the season. And then last night kind of helps. They win Saturday. That you're going to have some fans thinking pretty positive and optimistic about the remainder of the season, and then some will be cautiously optimistic, I should say also. But yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, anytime you win and you win the way that they did, and they did in a way that they did earlier in the season by going to the free throw line, hitting their free throws, playing pretty good defense, hitting shots. I don't know what the percentage was overall last night, but they did seem to be a little bit better offensively, flowing ball movement and the percentage, but it definitely kind of changes your mind.
Yeah, particularly in the first half, the Hogs were 53% from the floor. They were pretty dreadful in the second half, just made 6 field goals for 24% before the game, right at 40%. I contend if Mark's shot doesn't go in and you end up losing what would have been 77-76 if it hadn't have gone in, after having a 20-point lead, after the way you've lost, if you'd have dropped to 0-4 rather than the 1-3 we're talking about this morning, I know it's early in the year to call it a dagger, but I don't know if that's the kind of loss you can come back from when you add everything in that's happened this year. Man, I don't want to say it saved the season, but you could have went down a whole different path if that last shot doesn't go in for Mark.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you said it, Tommy. I mean, being up by 20 and coming back and losing the way if Mark's shot doesn't go in, the whole mentality would just have been disastrous, and there would have been people obviously very, very upset and not thinking very positive about the future of the season. So there's no doubt about it. You don't want to have that type of game and be at home and just obviously it's a positive feeling right now, but it could have been obviously right the opposite.
Obviously, the story's Mark's 35. That's nearly half your points in the ball game last night. And dude got to the free throw line. He was 17-22, Richard, from the stripe. I mean, he's doing what Coach Muss has been talking about, and that's drawing contact and getting to the line and getting those points.
Yeah, and he's a master at being able to do that, especially when he goes in the lane among the bigs. He can just hang up there, and he has that the ability to make shots in the lane, and that's his strength. He's able to make that first step and get by the defender, and he's so confident too. I mean, he obviously there may be some other guys that could hit that shot, but I don't know if there's another guy on the team that has as much confidence in himself as March does.
You know what's crazy is he wasn't one of the main pieces at Houston in terms of a scoring. He had some games for the Cougars, but has definitely transformed himself offensively here in Fayetteville. As we're talking with our guy Richard Davenport here on the McLarty Daniel Hotline. Some football questions for you, RD. Miguel Mitchell, Florida transfer, defensive back. What can you tell us about Arkansas's latest addition that happened last week?
Yeah, he's a guy that I was able to talk to after he visited, and the first thing that stood out to me, and I asked him because I know I'm sure he gets it. He's listed at 6'1", 215, but he looks like a linebacker. And he laughed when I said, "I'm sure you get the linebacker part a few times." And he says, "Yeah, a lot of people do," but he says, "I'm a safety," and he's a guy that at least from a physical standpoint, I didn't see much film of him this past season, bits and pieces, but he's a guy that if I'm a receiver, I'm paying attention to when I'm coming across the middle, because he is a bigger dude at that position, and very and has that imposing physical presence that I think most people are going to be aware of if he does see the field like we anticipate him doing.
Richard, one of the things we discussed at the tail end of last week after the Nick Saban and Alabama announcement was raiding Alabama, not just Arkansas. We've seen Texas do it. We've seen them lose some commits. How vulnerable do you think the Crimson Tide are right now, both with players on their roster and guys that might not make it to Tuscaloosa?
Well, I mean, there's always guys that, they for the most part, let's face it, most guys go play for a coaching staff or a particular coach. The name of the school is definitely big, especially if you're Alabama, but going to a school and playing for probably the greatest coach that's ever coached on the college level has probably been a goal for a lot of guys, not only just for being able to play for him, but also his ability to get guys to the league. And then this guy, then Saban is gone. You've already seen some defections, but at the same time, I think probably the majority of guys will give the new coach a chance. And I guess there was one guy quoted saying that the guys on the team need to give him a chance because he was impressed with him and he was very relatable. So I mean, we'll see how it pans out, but there's always going to be possible defections, especially when you're playing for a legend. And then another coach, even though he's been very successful recently, he's no Saban.
Yeah, and we were talking yesterday. Ty went over this a little bit, but maybe you can go a little more in depth. The transfer portal rules allow that if your head coach leaves, so Alabama players, Washington players, I guess Arizona and some other places will fall into this category. You have a little more time in the portal if your head coach leaves. How does that also How does that also interact though when schools have deadlines for when you can enroll and still be enrolled in classes for spring semester?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, Arkansas, the 22nd is the latest someone can enroll for the spring semester. I don't know. Obviously, don't know what the other schools have, but there's usually about a 4 or 5 day grace period when classes start at a particular school. They have 4 or 5 days after classes start to enroll. So it's going to be bam, bam, bam. I mean, if these guys want to transfer and go to another school, when a school loses a head coach, those guys have 30 days to enter the portal. Obviously, they got to make a quick decision now in order to try to find. And if they do decide to transfer, they may have a reduced pool of schools just because of what I just said about the last day that they can enroll in classes at a particular school. So it's Keyshawn Blackstock from Michigan State. He was one of those guys that when Michigan State made a change earlier in the season, he had 30 days to enter the portal, which he did, and obviously he's a Razorback. But it's right now is not a good time if you're a guy of one of those teams. It's a really a rush job to try to find another school.
Richard, I got a question for you this weekend. They're not playing each other just yet. Maybe we could potentially see it wind up in an NFC championship game. We got 5 Razorbacks participating. I know we think about Dre Greenlaw and Brandon Allen for the 49ers, and then Frank Ragnow and Dan Skipper for the Detroit Lions. And also, I'm forgetting the cornerback that was at A-State that came to Arkansas is now
Jerry Jacobs.
Yeah, Jerry Jacobs. But just what do you think about the prospect of maybe seeing those guys go at it in the NFC Championship if they're both able to get by the divisional this weekend?
I think all people from Arkansas root for those guys. I know I do. I mean, I don't really have a particular favorite team, but all the teams that I really follow usually is associated with a Razorback or two. And so, yeah, and then Dan Skipper, what a great story. I mean, to be so determined and still stick it out and not give up, his dream of, playing in the NFL. And he's bounced around several places, and it seems like, at least right now, he's found a place that, he's appreciated and he's needed. And that's pretty heartwarming, just because you always pull for guys that are willing to stick it out and overcome, adversity. And he's obviously done that. But no, it'd be pretty cool if they somehow meet in the championship game, and then you get to see them, at least some of them, go to the Super Bowl.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.